Hello everyone, and welcome to session number 11 of FileMaker Group Therapy for Citizen Developers. My name is Tim Jones. Our topic for this session is passing data in and out of scripts using script parameters and script results. On the agenda for today, we will learn how to pass data into a script using script parameters, both from a button and from another script. We'll then use the script parameter to affect that script's behavior. Next, we'll learn how to pass data out of a script using script results, both back to a calling script and to the event that triggered the script. And that, of course, will lead us to want to know how to cancel a triggered event. Knowing how to pass data into and out of scripts using script parameters and script results will let you accomplish more with fewer scripts. Your scripts will be smarter, more versatile, and easier to update when you have that next great idea. Let's get into a demo of passing data into a script. In our last session, we wrote a script that lets users specify that they want to output a report to on screen, in print, or to be saved as a PDF. I'll click the Save as PDF button here. We automated the Save as PDF script step to generate the file name. Here's the PDF that it just created. To generate the file name as using the layout name. We can see the layout name here, treatment line invoice, from the FileMaker window, and the layout name here is part of the file name, followed by the current date and the current time. Now, however, we want to customize the file name each time users run reports. So we will pass, as a script parameter, the custom file name text into each script that generates a report. Here's how you attach a script parameter to a button. I'll go into layout mode, and we have this button bar up here. And the last segment of the button bar, I turned it into a popover button. I'll double click on that segment. That will open up the popover panel, as well as the button bar setup panel. And we can see that that last segment, the actions segment, as I called it, is set to be a popover button rather than just a regular button, with the popover panel appearing below the button. Now that makes for a great system, a great architecture by which you can present multiple scripts, multiple buttons that can trigger scripts. And if you run out of room, all you have to do is expand the popover panel and then expand the button bar that's in it. This is another button bar, by the way, oriented vertically rather than horizontally like the button bar up top. And then we can just add more segments into this vertical button bar that's sitting on the popover panel. I'll double click on one of its segments and hit the plus sign a bunch of times to add in just about as many segments as we might need. So if you have a lot of actions that you need your users to be able to take from any given layout, this is a splendid way to do it. Okay, I don't really need all those segments, so I'm going to revert those changes to this layout and get back to the story at hand. Double clicking on actions, and then I'll double click on this invoice PDF segment of this kind of this nested button bar, where we see that we've already assigned the action of performing a script. Which script? The generate treatment invoice script. That script is the one that puts together all the records and goes to the right layout and sorts and so forth. But we want to assign to this button a script parameter to be passed into that script. You can do it either by clicking this little button here or into this space here. I'll click this button, and that'll open up the specify script dialog box, where we see that we've specified the generate treatment invoice script to be run. And we can fill in a script parameter here. If it was just static text or a single date or a single number or something, then just type it in here manually. But since I want to create a formula whose result will be passed in, I'll click Edit, and that'll open up the Specify Calculation dialog box, where we can then write a little more sophisticated formula that will put together the wording that we want to use for these file names for our invoices. We'll say static text of invoice for treatment of space, end quote. And then let's say we want the name of the animal. Well, we've got that over here via relationship, visit animal. There's the animal name field. Excuse me. And then we want to say on, and then provide the date of the animal's visit. And that's back here in the visit table with the date field. There we go. So invoice for treatment of bubbles on April 17th, 2000, whatever. We'll say okay and okay again. And now this button has that script parameter assigned to be passed into the script. I'll go ahead and exit out of the layout and save the changes. Now we're going to go over into that script and make some changes to it. First, I'm going to edit line 3, where I've said in the past that this script doesn't expect any incoming script parameters, and I'll change that to say, no, now this script expects an incoming parameter of a file name. I'm also going to come up here and change the name a little bit. I'm going to append a little parenthetical that I use at the end of any script name that expects a script result. And it just reminds me that, that I'm supposed to pass in a script parameter into this script. Kind of in the same way that calculation functions prompt us for the parameters that they need to work their calculations. So now I know in the future that anytime I go to perform this script, it expects a script parameter to be passed in when called, and that script parameter should include or should contain the file name of some sort. Now we'll come down here and we'll add a few lines that will handle the incoming script parameter. This is just a comment that we start with the hashtag or #. And let's store the incoming script parameter as a variable. So I'll type SV for the script step set variable. I'll press the return key, and then I'll press the spacebar key to trigger that little blue gear icon. And that opens up the options dialog box. Let's call this variable $file name, single $, and then for the value, I'm going to go and specify, and I'm going to use one of those wonderful little get functions, right? There's the get function has all sorts of variations to it, all sorts of information that it can go and get or retrieve for you. Here they all are. And the one that I want is called get script parameter. There. Get script parameter retrieves the string of data that the button or script that called this script passed in. Now, this set variable statement will store that value as $file name, a local variable, so we can use it later in this script. Okay, now let's save this script. And we'll go and run it with the script debugger and data viewer turned on. I'll click our actions button, click the invoice PDF button, and the script debugger intercepts the call to that script, and we can step into it so we can debug it one line at a time. There we go. Now we're into our generate treatment invoice script. And the first statement to be performed is to perform our little script startup script that I put at the beginning of nearly every script I ever write. I'll go ahead and step into that, and we can see its simple lines just set error capture to on. That means no system error messages will be allowed to be shown. Allow user abort is set to off. That means users cannot abort out of this script if the script ever comes to a paused state. And the close popover statement will close any popover panel that's open. I'll go ahead and step into that one. The popover panel closes in response. And now we're moved on to the next statement here in the original script. And this is the one that we care about, set variable file name. Now, watch down here in the data viewer. In the current tab of the data viewer, it keeps tabs for you of any fields that are referenced in the current script and any variables that are already in memory. But as I step into this next statement, a new variable is added into memory called $file name. And I'll double click it here so we can inspect its value a little bit more closely. And we can see, sure enough, it says invoice for treatment of Bubbles. Good. That's the name of the animal who visited in this particular visit on April 18, 2017. And there we see that the date. All right. So our script parameter looks like it's working great. Now remember, I'll go ahead and halt out of this script because that's all the farther we needed to go with that little test. Remember that local variables like this $file name variable only remain in memory until the script in which they were created concludes. And they're only known within that script. Nothing else in the database, including other scripts, knows that this variable exists. But we need the output report script to know about the file name. This output report script is the one that does the creating of the file path variable and then saving the PDF. So you might think we ought to change the file name variable to a global variable by putting $2 in front of its name. However, it'll actually be simpler in the long run to just pass that local variable into the output report script that we call down here as a script parameter. You've learned how to pass script parameters in via buttons. Now let's learn how to pass script parameters into scripts that are being called by other scripts. This perform script statement has a parameter option so that we can pass in, as I click there, whatever parameter we want. Let's just pass in the value of that file name variable. Whatever is in the file name variable that was defined here on line 8, which of course is itself a script parameter that was passed in from the button, we'll pass that along as a script parameter to this output report script. That means we need to go and prepare the output report script to receive an incoming script parameter. So we'll jump over here, and first, like I did before, I'll change my notes to say this script now should expect an incoming parameter called file name. Likewise, I'll change the name of the script, adding that little parenthetical like I did before to remind myself. It's not required. It serves me greatly to have that reminder on the end of the name of the script. Okay. Then we'll come down here and add a comment and some lines of code that will handle the incoming script parameter. Like before, we'll capture the incoming script parameter as a variable. So I'll type SV, hit return, hit the space bar. Let's call this one $file name as well. There will be no name conflict because these two variables are both local variables, local to their own scripts. And so they don't know about each other. So their names won't clash or conflict at all. And like before, we'll just simply use the get script parameter function. Since we know its syntax, its spelling and all, we can just type it. No need to jump into the specify calculation dialog box if we know what we're doing. And we'll say, okay there. Next, we'll use that new $file name variable down here in our set variable file path statement. I'll double click on this statement, get into the specify for the value. And there we see that we had created this line of code that set a function variable called name to be equal to, and then we went out and got the layout name and the current date and time. Well, we could certainly change all of that to $file name and say, okay, let there exist a function variable called name that's equal to whatever is in the $file name variable that was created or defined here on line 8. But that seems a little silly to me to have a variable declaration statement here in our let function that's just so simple, right? Name equals file name. Why don't we just do away with that altogether and come in here and say $file name, right? $file name has all of the verbiage of the name that we want, invoice for treatment of so-and-so. But then, of course, we need to scrub that text and make sure that colons are substituted with dashes, and any forward slashes are replaced with dashes, and any spaces are replaced with underscores. So we're running it through our little scrubbing mechanism here with the substitute function. We'll say okay, and okay again. And then I'll save both of those scripts and we'll run them. Back to Actions, Invoice PDF. I'll click the PDF option. It goes out and creates the PDF. And then we look at the file name, and the file name looks great. Invoice for treatment of bubbles on 4/18/2017 with all the substitutions made. Fantastic. So we've got a file name being passed in from a button through our report script and on into our output script successfully. So we see that script parameters make scripts more versatile. We can use our one output report script to generate PDF files of any file name. We create separate scripts for each report. Those scripts handle the tasks peculiar to their own reports, like finding and sorting the right records, navigating to the correct layout, specifying the right paper size and orientation, and so on. We let users call those scripts with buttons, handing in the desired file name first from the button to the generate report script, then passing that on to the output report script. So to pass information into scripts, we use script parameters. To pass information out of scripts, we use script results. Script results pass data out of a script, either back to the script that called it using the perform script step, or back to the trigger event that called it. Script results are a feature of the exit script step. We can pass any string of data in a script result, but true and false have special meaning with script trigger events. Now let's get into a demo of passing data from a script back to its calling script. Let's say we want our report script to notify the user that the report that was just generated has been sent to the screen or to the printer or saved as a PDF with a file name of such and such. We'll have our output report script send notice back to the invoice script as to which output option the user chose, and then it can react accordingly. So in the output report script, here on line 10, we asked the question, would you like to view, print, or create a PDF of the current report? And then we gathered their response, get last message choice, into a variable called $output. We then run through a series of conditionals. If $output equals 1, in other words, if they click the button to view the report on screen, then exit the script. And at this point, we've not taken advantage of the ability to pass back a script result with that exit script statement. But we need to do that now. We've decided we want to do that. So we're going to pass back a script result. It could be static, or it could be a calculation. It could be a variable. Let's use our $output variable, which again is either contains a value of 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how the user responded to that question of do they want to view or print or save a PDF. Now, we could duplicate this exit script line twice, put one in the else if block and another one in the else block, but that seems awfully redundant to me because we're going to do the same thing each time. Why not just drag this one to the end of the script and let it perform no matter which output option they chose? That does leave the if block empty, but that's legal. If they chose to view on screen, then don't do anything because the report is already there on screen for them to look at. Otherwise, if they chose to output to printer, then print. Otherwise, create a file path and save the report as a PDF. Now, please, seeing me put this exit script step at the end of this script, do not let this mislead you into thinking that you're required to have an exit script step at the end of every script. You are not. Now that we're going to be passing back a script result to the script that called this one, let's go to the script that called this one and handle that incoming script result. I'll set a comment here handle incoming script result. It's coming back from the script that was most recently called, or that most recently passed back a script result would be a more accurate way to say it. And then we'll capture that script result in a variable. So I'll type SV, hit return, hit the space bar. We'll call this variable $result. And you probably guessed already that when we go to specify what value we want it to use, we're going to use one of those wonderful get functions. Get, and this time it's script, not script parameter, like for capturing the incoming parameter to a script as it's called initially from a button or another script, but script result, that is information being passed back from a script that this script called. So script result, I'll hit return and click OK, and OK again. There. Next, let's create a custom dialog box. SCD, show custom dialog, and I'll hit return, and then the space bar. And for the title, we'll say report results. And for the message, well, we'll come to that in a second. I'm going to get rid of the cancel button and just leave them an OK button, since we're not really asking them a question or giving them a choice. We're just presenting information to them. I'm going to use a calculation here because there are potentially 3 different messages that we want displayed in this custom dialog box. There is your report is open on the screen, your report's been sent to the printer, or your report's been saved as a PDF. And as the condition to determine which message to show, it really comes down to whatever is in that result variable, right? The result variable, that's the script result that was passed back from our output report script, is called $result. We could certainly use the if function here to say, if $result equals 1, then display this message. Otherwise, if $result equals 2, then display this other message. Otherwise, display this third message. That's clumsy. Nesting ifs inside ifs. That's why the case function was invented, so that we didn't have to nest if functions inside other if functions. The case function makes it a little easier in saying, in the case that $result equals 1, then give me this result. Or in the case that, and it's not a nested function, in the case that $result equals 2, then give me that result. Otherwise, give me this default result. But when your cases, when your tests are only integers or whole numbers, there's this lovely little choose function that's designed specifically to handle those kinds of tests. It's going to return one result according to the integer value of a test. So let's use choose, and I'll dress this up the way that I like them, like so. And there. And so, all right. So our test is simply going to say $result. That is, go and look at that $result variable. We know that it can only contain a 1, a 2, or a 3. And if it contains a 0, then I want this result. Okay, the choose function is a 0-based function. That is, the first choice in there is the 0th choice. Well, that can't be, it won't be a 0 ever. So I'm just going to put quote, quote, meaning don't give me any result if that's the case, because I know that's going to be an impossibility anyway. But we have to hold the place for that 0th result. For the first result, we'll say, quote, your report is open on your screen. Right? Remember, button number 1 was they wanted to view it on screen. Then for our second result, if they clicked button number 2 back there in the output result script, or output report script, we'll say something like, your report has been sent to the printer. I'll put periods at the end of each of these as well and make it look nice grammatically. And then a semicolon at the end of that line, because we have another. So for the third result, if the result variable contains a 3, we'll say your report has been saved to your documents folder as, and then we'll give the file name. So end that quote, ampersand $file name. Now the $file name variable that exists in this script, is the first script, is the one that came in from the button, and it hasn't been scrubbed yet. It hasn't been substituted with all the underscores and the dashes, but I think it'll serve perfectly sufficiently to help the user find the PDF file that's sitting in their documents folder by this time. And then we'll append a little bit more text to that. We'll say, after the file name, we'll say .pdf, because the file name will end in a .pdf, period, end quote. Okay, I think I got all my quotes where they're needed, and we'll say okay. Good, and okay again, and then we'll save all of those scripts. And I'll demonstrate each option. So actions, run the invoice PDF script. Would you like to view, print, or create a PDF? I'll hit view, and we get the little message that says your report is open on your screen, obviously. Fantastic. We'll run it again. There. I'm not going to hit the print button. You'll have to trust me that it works because I'm not going to print, but I'll go PDF, and the PDF will open there into its application, and the custom dialog box appears here back in FileMaker. Your report has been saved to your documents folder as, and then it gives the file name that was passed in via the button. Fantastic. So we've passed back a script result from our output report script that then we handled and did something with in the script that called that output report script here in this business. Now that you know how to pass a script result back to whatever called or triggered a script, let's look at how to use script results to cancel a trigger event. I'm going to jump over into another layout, the household form desktop layout. On this layout, our users enter household records, but a household record without any members or animals should be considered as incomplete or invalid. Let's write a script to check for those conditions and to not allow the user to leave a household record incomplete like that until they comply, until they fill in the needed information. I'll go ahead and close up these two scripts. We won't need them anymore. And I'll duplicate my script template. That's a nice time saver, having a script template. And we'll call this new script validate household record. Okay. For the purpose, I've got that typed over here in a little text file. I'll copy and paste it in. We want to ensure that each household record has at least one related household member, that is a customer, and one related animal. And this is going to be triggered by the on-record commit script trigger on any of our household form layouts. It's not going to expect any incoming parameters. It will, as all my scripts do, it'll call our little script startup script that sets error capture to on and allow user report to off. And then we'll simply say if. Now I was dogging the if function earlier, but I'm not going to dog the if script step. They are different. The only way to create a conditional block of code in a script is with the if script step, which is different than the if calculation function. We'll say if, when we count, the count function, the number of customers related to the current household record. So I'm going to chase down this household customer relationship. If when we count the number of records there, and the only way to count a record really in FileMaker is to count the populated field, count a populated field in a record. The ID field is the most reliable field to count because it can never be left blank. It fills itself in, of course, our primary key field. And if we end up with a number that's greater than 0, then we know they have entered at least one customer, one household member for this household. That's half the battle. And if when we count the number of animals that are related to the current household, and we come up with a number that's greater than 0. That means they've satisfied the other side of our prerequisite. And we'll say that if that statement is true, if both those conditions are true, then we will exit out of this script and we'll pass back a text result of true. Notice that I did not put true in quotes. The words true and false in FileMaker are not string literals, they are Booleans, and so they do not get enclosed in quotes like strings of text do. Else, we would want to, in other words, if the validation failed, then we'd want to show the user a custom dialog box, and I'll come and fill in the details there later, but then we'd want to exit out of this script and pass back a script result of false. Note that you can also use 0 in place of false, the number 0, or you can use any non-zero value in place of true. Okay, now I'll save this script. We'll come over into our layout, go into layout mode, and we'll assign that script to the script trigger event of onRecordCommit. In the layout setup command, we get all of those layout level script triggers. OnRecordCommit is the one that seems most appropriate here because it's when a user makes changes to a household record and then tries to commit those changes, that's when we would want to perform our custom validation routine. So onRecordCommit, we'll say run the script called validate the household record. It doesn't need a script parameter. Otherwise, I would have appended a parenthetical to the end of the name to remind me that I need to supply a script parameter. We'll say OK there and OK again. A little badge appears in the lower right-hand corner of the layout to remind me that I have at least one layout level script trigger attached to this layout. We'll exit out of layout mode and save the changes. And we'll go back in and I'll fill in that custom dialog box. Let's say that if they do violate this validation routine, we'd want to say something like, please enter at least one household member and one animal for the current household, period. And we'll just give them an OK button since we're not asking them a question. We're just informing them that they have left this record incomplete. All right, we'll say OK, save that script again, and we'll close out of there. And I'll go ahead and create a new household record. Okay, new record. Let's say the title that we want to give to this family is the Wheeler family, and that they live at 42 Elm Street here in Long Beach. And the zip is 90813. And let's say that's enough information for right now. And I am intentionally leaving household members and animals blank. I'll try to commit this record by just clicking in an empty space. And our script ran, obviously, and presented us with this message. Okay, fantastic. So when I tried to commit the record, commit the changes to this record, that's when our script ran and it saw that we didn't meet the criteria. The if statement came back false, and therefore it's going to abort the attempt to commit the record. Really is what that script result of false is ending up doing. When passed back to a trigger event with a script result of false, it aborted the record commit. I'll try another way. Let's say I try to go to a different record. Won't let me do it. It aborted the record commit and showed the custom dialog box, or maybe I should say it the other way around, showed the custom dialog box, then it's aborting the record commit. What if I try to go to a different layout? No can do. What if I just try to quit FileMaker altogether? Still no can do. Boy, this is powerful validation, right? This is really ensuring that we're getting good data in these household records. So, okay, I give up, I'll comply. We'll fill in a household member and an animal name. There we go. Now I'll click in an empty space. I can navigate to other records, can navigate to other layouts. So all is good. So we see that to summarize how to cancel a triggered event, about half the script triggers that we have in FileMaker are pre-event and may be canceled. And please see the recording of session number 9 in this series for more information about script triggers. To cancel a triggered event, we use the exit script step and we pass back a text result of false or the number 0. That will cancel the event that triggered the script. On the other hand, if we use the exit script step and pass back a text result of true, or we pass back no script result, or we don't even use the exit script step in a called script, then that will allow the event that triggered the script to proceed normally. So we see that script parameters and script results let us make our scripts smarter and more flexible, and they even allow us to improve our data or user experience by canceling triggered events based on conditions. I hope this session will help you start to implement these strategies in your own FileMaker solutions. You may find that you want to pass more than one data value into a script. Well, come to our next session where we'll talk about how to pack multiple values in a single script parameter and then unpack them using text parsing and value list functions. Okay, are there any questions about script parameters, script results, or how to cancel triggered events?